Again, we want to thank you all for jumping on to this month's Judy's Room. Could not be a more important and valuable topic area where we're going to be exploring Olmstead, the current going-ons, the ADA. We're going to go back in history. We're going to look how we can proactively possibly approach and have some real authentic dialogue with people that truly know the ins and outs of the current going on, so that we can strategize and have a community conversation. So I thank you all so much for jumping on. Hey, Jim Ward, thank you for joining.
Jim, you're a dad? Tell us more.
Well, he said to put something important in the chat. So
that's pretty important to me.
That was the most important thing I could think of. Well, this year marks 30 years of continuous sobriety for me. When I hit bottom and was hospitalized, they told me I was involved in politics. I was executive director of the Vermont Democratic Party. I was a city councilor and justice of the peace. But when I was hospitalized, they told me that I should do something like less stressful, like work in a 7-Eleven, which I don't have any skills to work in a 7-Eleven, and I don't think it would be less stressful. But they told me I had a broken brain and I'd be on medication for the rest of my life, which also is not true. And they told me I shouldn't have children, which, I started this work in 1979, but when I hit bottom in 95, and they said that, it just made me even more deeply aware of how nobody should have their dreams and aspirations limited by either a real disability or an assigned disability. And I have two boys, two young men now. They're 21 and 20. I just returned from Quantico. My son just completed officer training school for the Marines. And I'm kind of a peacenik hippie, so I have mixed feelings about that, but I support him, of course, and support the proper use of the military.
Okay. Jim, you got started. You got started. Do you want to let us just do it? Because we're letting people in. They're still flooding in. But you got started right jumping in. I think you did your own intro.
Well, you asked me about children, and
I love it
forever about my boys.
And you should be a proud papa. They are incredible humans. And I think you are a walking miracle. You far surpassed their expectations. So I don't think 7-Eleven would hire me either. So don't worry about it.
But well, I have to admit, it didn't take a whole lot to create the children. So don't give me too much credit.
Oh, on that note, we're going to welcome everybody officially to Judy's Room this evening. And please, accept my apologies as I'm not on screen. I will try to flash the camera on real quick when I get some lighting. I am in transit this evening, and so I am doing it as remote as possible. But I'm just so grateful to be here and be a part of this dialogue. Two of my favorite people are actually presenting. I have a deep personal connection to both of them. They are inspirations. I don't want to cry. They're inspirations to me. So I am just going to quickly run through our intros and say, well, Judy's Room is a monthly gathering of shared, collaborative advocacy, voices, education. We often talk about the topic areas that people don't want to talk about, and we, there is no elephant in the room here. We talk about it, we address it, and we support each other. And there is a great need for that kind of radical solidarity in such a time like this. And so Susan Fitz and I were speaking prior to everybody rolling in. And to be transparent, this is a very scary time. I even took a deep breath as an individual that spent 8 years institutionalized, and I can't believe we are where we are right now. And so I'm even more passionate to really bring these dialogues, bring community together, cross collaborate, and bring back that spirit of radical solidarity that we have seen in the past. And so with that being said, our founder, David Oakes of Mind Freedom International, actually was intertwined with all of the work that connected to Justin Dart and the ADA and the independent living movement. And really bringing that cross disability solidarity. I could not be more grateful to Susan Fitz from I Love You Lead On to partner with us every month to bring these topic areas to the greater community for some dialogue. At Mind Freedom, my name is KK. Sorry. I am the president and CEO of Mind Freedom International, and it is honestly a beyond a privilege and a joy, as difficult as these times are, and an honor to serve in that role and to be loud and proud. And I am a survivor, and I'm super grateful. And a part of our mission at Mind Freedom is to to well, we are. Rights, choices, and options. And we are to, I want to give you I'm going to put our actual mission statement in the chat for everybody, but I'm going to just speak it from my heart. It started for psych survivors with psychiatric disabilities. That's the statement under the CRPD. We were an organization that were a key advocacy voice in the CRPD, if you're not familiar with that. But that really was a fundamental moment in history. But we are going to continue to advocate loud and proud for individuals against all forced institutionalization, forced psychiatric treatment, and for agency autonomy, options, and choice to be in the community. And we're going to work diligently to bring together rights-based organizations, disability voices, so that we can march together. I'll put the real, that was KK's little from the heart version, but I'm going to just thank everybody for joining on this evening. I'm going to pass it over to Susan for her to do her quick intro as we do this in unison. And then I'm going to hand it quick over to Mr. Ward and to Jennifer, because Mr. Ward started giving a little bit of his bio in his beautiful sharing about his sons and the journey. So
I didn't call myself Mr. Ward, Kate.
Oh, excuse me. Jim Ward happens to be one of my best friends in the world. So I am just overjoyed for them to be here tonight. So Susan, would you like to share about?
I founded Judi's Room about 6 years ago because of the impact of Judi Chamberlain on the disability movement. And we started off right away, first Wednesday of every month, having one of these events. And it's expanded from doing one event a month to 3. We also have a Deva's Room, which is in honor of Deva Casnett, who ran the Society for Disability Studies for over 35 years. And Justin's Room, who is after Justin Dart, and hopefully you all know who he is. And the 3 different sessions cover disability topics in different ways. Hopefully all very impactful, but I would say Judi's Room is a little bit more cutting edge. Deva's Room is a little more academic, and Justin's Room is more storytelling. So they all give people the opportunity not only to listen and to learn, but to speak their own voices. Because there's nothing more important in the disability movement than our voices are heard. We are a very diverse, intersectional group of people. So we are not one voice. We are hundreds and hundreds of voices, and they all need to be heard and respected and listened to, especially right now with what's going on with Olmstead. This cannot be, I don't think there's been a more important time in my lifetime for us to speak up and be heard. So first we'll hear from Jim and Jennifer, and then you will all have the opportunity to join in and add your own 2 cents in. And Jim, you want to take it off?
Well, sure. Thank you. And I'll try to be brief.
I can put your bio in the chat as well, because we didn't run through that.
And I got to tell you, you put my whole resume in there. I only mention that because with the platform we're creating, Amplify, if we do it right, I won't matter. The thing will be a stewardship rather than an executive director or a CEO or anything like that. I think the goal is to get the voices that Susan talked about amplified as much as possible. And let me start with the only part from my bio I want to mention is that I started this work in 1979, helping folks transition into the community from abusive institutions like Willowbrook and Letchworth Village. And so to be fighting the same fights over again, the words are just unspeakable. We started ADA Watch to say things and fight fights aggressively in a way that other organizations at the time were frightened to do because their federal funding was at risk. I have to say that 25 years later, there's many, many organizations speaking out assertively, aggressively, without fear and with fear. That said, the reason we're speaking out, the reason there's more unison, more of a united community and speaking with many voices, but the same message in many ways, is because things are so bad. Because so much is being taken away, that they're sending us back to the institutions. And again, as we outline, and please, if you didn't get the ADA Watch alert that went out today and last week, shoot me an email. I'll send that off to you. I'd love to send you to the ADA Watch website, and there's good information there, but it's way behind. ADA Watch is pretty much a solo operation. We don't have a lot of funding. We don't have a lot of resources. And if there's anybody out there who wants to offer some in-kind or volunteer support to get our web up into shape and have it match the information that's going out on ADA Watch, that would be really helpful. But I'm not going to go through the specifics of it. And Jennifer, I'm more of a political hack, so I'll let Jennifer do some of the more of the details. The first thing I want to say, though, is that, this is an opinion. This isn't the law. It hasn't been codified. This is the opinion, and it should scare us because it means that this is how they're going to enforce or not enforce our rights. And challenging the integration mandate, which again allows us to live in our own homes, in our own communities, and to work and to learn and to play and to be integrated into society, is at risk now. And we're having to fight again for the rights that we already won. And this goes back to not too long after the bicentennial, that Olmstead was, or the integration mandate was affirmed with the regulations implementing Section 504. So it goes back 50 years. It was reaffirmed 30 years ago, 36 years ago, with the ADA Olmstead decision of 1999, Olmstead versus LC. And I forgot to show, I wanted to hold up this piece of artwork that Lois Curtis gave me and gave ADA Watch. Again, we were there at the crossroads of such important decisions impacting our rights and our freedoms. Our community was there. Our community made us visible, made sure we were heard, and made sure the law followed in a way that met the needs of our community and got us out of institutions and into the community. And like so much that is going on now in terms of our rights being reversed, it's going after the most vital protections, the most vital integration mandate that we have won over the years. I just want to, before I pass it on to Jennifer, I just want to say that I can send it to you. I have a bunch of quotes from our community leaders. I also have, we put out the legislative answer that was fostered by ADAPT, and much of the work, the groundwork is done by ADAPT, the LaTanya Reeves Freedom Act. And it's a legislative response to get back our rights and to reaffirm our rights and to support the integration mandate that this community desperately relies on. Jennifer, why don't you go ahead? And again, I'd rather this be a conversation so we can just move through this together and see how we're going to respond together as a community.
Thanks, Jim, very much. A little bit about me. My name is Jennifer Kuchera. I live in Ohio. Was born with spinal muscular atrophy. Lived obviously with my parents growing up. And then at some point I moved in with a male friend of mine, lived with him for 14 years, but throughout that time was physically and mentally abused. Always had the dream about living by myself, but didn't have the courage back then to do it until things got really, really bad. I ended up in a nursing home for 2 years because under stress from living with the gentleman, I got into a car accident. Ended up in a nursing home, which were the 2 worst years, even with all the abuse I endured. Was the 2 worst years of my life because I got sexually assaulted by a stranger for the first time. I got punched in the head by a former professional boxer. I got scabies while I was in the nursing facility, so my health actually got much worse when I was in the institution than better. Finally moved out. I've been living in my own apartment now for the last 12 years. This is probably the most freeing, joyful time that I've ever had. I don't have any plans of going back into an institution and will literally fight to my death to stay in my own apartment. I see, I would like to be an optimist, but I am more of the realist, and I pay attention to maybe even small things that are going on. I mean, with this federal administration, I don't know if any of you saw early on when he blamed disabled people for some of the air traffic control accidents that were occurring. And then you move on to when he wanted to get rid of the homeless populations in DC. I actually read somewhere today where he did tell the HHS secretary to change the laws necessarily to institutionalize anybody that's homeless across all disabilities, not just mental disabilities. But so I really don't think that he cares about any person, disability or not, that is not rich. Like, I think that is the only people that he cares about, even maybe not even that, maybe just himself and his family. I don't know. So I'm not very nonpartisan at this moment, but there are just little signs to me that there are some shifts. And I mean, the best thing that I can see happening is to somehow codify into law HCBS services, home and community-based services. They obviously did that with nursing home services. So it's not like they can't codify HCBS. It's just that they haven't, and they probably don't want to. So I'm open to definitely conversation. I think that we're slowly seeing a slide back into institutionalization. I mean, even our own governor just gave, I don't know, $20 million to developmental centers for people with developmental disabilities. Developmental centers are also called ICFs, or intermittent care facilities. So I don't know. I mean, again, people that are more optimistic than me say, well, those people need to live as well, and they're not building new ones, they're just revamping the ones that they already have. And okay,
For expansion though, Jennifer.
well, yeah,
I
I
wanna
mean,
highlight that.
so it's just all of these things just are little signals to me that we need to get together. We need to have a unified voice. We all need to fight. People just, it's that thing that you think that people that are on your side, and then you realize that they're really not because they still don't understand disability and they think that it's something that's over there, that's never going to touch them. And I don't even know how that thinking is possible because disability can happen. We know, right? Disability can happen to anyone at any time. So it just blows my mind that people still think disability is something that's far away and it doesn't pertain to them when it pertains to all of us.
Can I just interject really quick? I want
Of
to just
course.
highlight, if you didn't, were unaware, Jennifer is actually the chair of the Ohio Olmstead Task Force, which every state should
I'm
have.
interpreting for the deaf, and I don't know who's talking. I can't say who's talking.
That is KK.
It was KK. I apologize. And she has really done some incredible work, restored disability leadership. She is a nationally recognized warrior advocate for all of us. But I want to highlight that every state should have an Ohio, like Olmstead Task Force that is disability led, very similar to PAMI councils across the country that I know you guys have heard us talk about with the PNAs. But Jennifer has done groundbreaking work, and I just really want to highlight that. I do also want to celebrate that she is fearless as we fought the fraud and abuse in Ohio hearings. And I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that, but I know that we need to duplicate this in every state.
Yeah, I get carried away sometimes, KK. So yeah, she is right. I run the Ohio Olmstead Task Force, and our Olmstead Task Force, because again, like KK mentioned, it's supposed to be in every state, but ours is a grassroots standalone 501c3 organization. A lot of the other ones are under like the cabinet agencies, so under the departments of Medicaid or under the governor's office in different states. We were able to get free of all our government agencies. So we have a steering committee that helps to guide our work, but it is run and led by people with disabilities, and that will always be the central voice to Olmstead. I am proud of our work. We are, right now, we're all volunteer based, but I'm working on changing that so that we have more of a solid part, but we are gaining traction within our state. And more people are coming our way as advocates and also listening to us, so our voice is getting louder and louder.
What document is it that says that each state is required to have a task force?
I think it's under the, is it, I don't know if it's spelled out in the Olmstead Act.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. But it was during that time when that was signed, all the states, when they realized they had to have Olmstead, what is it called? Oh my goodness. Olmstead plans, that's it, my goodness. Every state was supposed to have an Olmstead plan. And I think I can find the website. There should be a website called Olmstead Rights that the plans for each state are listed. I know that ours happened like 2 or 3 governors ago and was never really put into play. A lot of the things that were in the Olmstead plan came to fruition, but it was never released as the Olmstead plan. So that is one of the things that I think we're going to be working on next, is trying to get an Olmstead plan updated and hold their feet to the fire there with that. But Olmstead was really involved in, we had the first round of massive Medicaid reform where they tried to remove paying family caregivers. But we were able to get enough people involved in it that the legislators pulled back on that idea, at least for this first round. But we expect round number 2 in November. The Department of Medicaid is trying to create all the rules now surrounding the legislators' legislation. So we are going to be fighting back via rules. So it's all up in air. Obviously, we have numerous waivers in our state. I think we have like 8 home and community-based service waivers. And they're in, like, we have some that are pertinent for people with IDD, and then some that are under Medicaid itself, and then aging waivers as well. So we have a really complicated system in Ohio. And there are different services on each of these waivers. I could go into depth about that, but I would like to have more conversation as well. So I don't want to be talking the whole night long. I want to hear from others and their stories, and turn it back over to Jim if you want to say anything else before we.
Well,
open the
I just
floor.
wanted to say thank you, and that was a great overview. And I don't know if we acknowledged it or not, but today's the first day of Disability Pride Month, and that all this is coming down at the same time. It's just outrageous, and just it's unquestionable that we need to be united now. And from what we're seeing in the news and from people's action alerts, this community is united, and we're ready for the fight. Even though we've fought for these rights already, we'll do it again.
Yeah, I want to just chime in and say that I do believe there's a the other younger they are unaware of what the fight was. So I think Olmstead and the ADA, as it's being dismantled, it people are a little numb to it because they didn't know what it was to not have it. And I'm on the same page as Jim and Jennifer, as I spent 8 years institutionalized. I know what it's like to fight to get your rights back for yourself, your agency, your autonomy, and your freedoms. And this is scary, and I never thought I'd see it this way again. And so, kind of whatever way that we can come together and unify, whether it be through independent living, whether it be through Ohio Olmstead Task Force, but the cross disability, that means all of us need to come together, because that's what it took to win the first time. So of course it's going to be what's going to take to uphold. So I just got to chime in with that. Sorry.
Can I?
No, sorry. And I also want to say I put in the chat a link to our release today that included a DAPS action alert and other information and quotes from our colleagues. So, rather than outlining all that verbally, I encourage you to check out that link and other information that we have there. And I wanted to add too, I didn't mention it when I described hitting bottom, 30 years ago now. So the last drink I had, I woke up out of an alcoholic blackout in my car in the woods with a vacuum cleaner hose hooked up to the exhaust pipe in my car filling up with fumes, and could have had brain damage, could have killed myself, whatever shook me out of that. I don't know. I can't explain, but that was 30 years ago. And I do know how out of touch we can feel with. There were people who loved me, there were people who cared about me, but I didn't feel that in that moment. And if any of us get in that place of not feeling it, just being numb and not believing anybody cares, that's when we have to really reach out. And that's why this community is so powerful. We can handle these stories. We can absorb the pain of each other, and we can have answers, and we can keep people alive through this community. This community kept me alive. It gave me a purpose. It gave me direction. And we got to remember just how powerful it is. So thank you for sharing your story. And it moved me to share a little more of my own.
Before I went into the nursing facility, the reason I got into the accident, there was snow outside, but I had just come back from buying illegal narcotics, because I was taking narcotics like triple the amount that like I could handle, because I couldn't deal with my life situations And I was not at all thinking with a level head. I was just trying to cope. And I literally think that it was some unforeseen, whether you want to call it God or my higher self or whatever, that actually caused the accident. Because it literally saved my life. The path I was going down would have been the end for me. But I put me in the hospital with broken bones, went in the nursing home. It just caused me to see how bad nursing homes were, but it also helped me to get off the meds that I was on. And it literally started my path to advocacy. I was always pretty much alone. I used to teach mathematics over 30 years ago, at a college level, but I was always an advocate, but I didn't work with others. So this helped me to see that you can't be a lone wolf, that you have to join with other people and do the fight together, because you're much stronger together than you are apart. And plus, it is a support group in itself, whether we talk about, outward support or not. It all helps us to know that we're not alone, that there are others that are going through same or similar things. And I have found many friends through these spaces. And I will forever be a systems advocate, probably to the day that I die. So thank you for sharing your story. And yeah, never give up. Find people that will listen to you and help you. And just keep
those of you that want to share, you might want to put your hands up.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. You were on it. I was just going to say that because
there's a lot of people here tonight, and it'll be very hard to keep track.
And I wanted to point out in the chat, Jason brought up a really good point, I think, and that is, when are we being partisan? The things we care about at the core are bipartisan, yet they have become partisan because of the cuts, because of the policy changes, the staffing changes, everything that's going on. So maybe as you talk about this, maybe talk about how you avoid being too partisan, especially those of us who have 501c3 organizations. How we can keep this aggressive, but yet not get in trouble with an administration that's really cracking down on 501c3s.
I thank you, Jim, as I have several, and I wanted to highlight that. You took the words from my mouth. And I do also want to focus on how maybe not just sharing our stories, but sharing how our personal stories can really bring to light why this is so important, why we have this fight for justice. Just as Jennifer said, the happiest years has been her independence, and she would have not roared with the fight for us if she didn't.
I really want to jump on your use of the word heroic, because that's been modeled for us. We want to honor the great leaders of the past, but I think too often we find ourselves as a movement waiting for the next hero to arrive. And the reality is the Justin Darts and the Judi Humans and the Bob Kafkas and Mark Abrisso. I'm very fortunate I got to work with them, and they were on our founding ADA Watch National Advisory Council. And I can tell you that they were regular folks. They are regular folks, and we all have the ability to not be the next Justin Dart, and not be the next Judi Human, but be the next you, speaking the truth and building relationships. They were all relationship builders. It was less ego than it was unity. And when I met Justin Dart, I hit bottom in Vermont, moved to DC, got involved in this movement, and Justin told me I was going to be a leader. And Justin told anybody who spoke up that they were going to be a leader. Although Yoshiko, his wife, scolded me once in a speech and said, no, he really meant you. But he really meant it when he told anybody that. And I don't have the standing of Justin Dart or Judi Human, But as your fellow colleague, I can assure you that you do have that power, that you are a leader already, and that you can confidently know that when you do the work that's consistent with our community, you're building the future of our movement. Or woman on the horse coming to save us. It's really the collective actions of all of us. And I think what we can do better as a community is make sure you get that's why I love the page that we discussed about the Olmstead page, Susan, that you put together, and other resources. We need to, as much as possible, give the tools to everyday people, everyday members of this community, so that the information and the power does not just reside with, national organizations or state organizations or whatever. It really needs to be distributed leadership. And to the extent that we can help you, that ADA Watch can help you, get you information, please let me know. And I just want to assert again that I was not talking about myself as hero. Although, no, I can talk about myself within the hero model, because I look back at some of the work I've done, and I've taken out home equity loans to make up for salary I didn't have. I've wound up with sciatica from sleeping on people's couches instead of spending nonprofit money. This is heroic leadership, and it's not good. We can burn ourselves out, but it's not going to advance the movement. And to the extent that we can keep ourselves healthy, and support our colleagues in this work, and make sure that nobody's doing this alone and burning themselves out, that's how we get beyond heroic leadership. It's not just the charismatic leader. It's being aware of what kind of toll this takes on your health and well-being. And that's where we need to reach out to one another. Nobody should be doing this work alone. We have resources we can share. We have information we can share. We can pump each other up when we're feeling down. And just know that we're in this together, as Susan was expressing.
I want to just second that and say that's how we support each other, because I know, like I mentioned, Jim is one of my best friends and we cheerlead each other all the time. Tony and I can tell Jennifer, we do our very best because we need to, but it's because we're human and we have those experiences, and it's that lived experience leadership and disability leadership and voice that's needed now more than ever before, because it's not for others to speak on our behalf. It's for us to rise up and speak. And so I just want to thank everybody. I now am going to cut the recording. This is when we're going to have more of what we refer to as Judi's Room after hours. And Susan will hold the space, and we will allow there to be free, unhindered dialogue and conversation, and everybody can feel free. And the presenters are free to stay or free to go. But I just want to thank everybody again for attending Judi's Room tonight. It was a little bit hectic, but I call it grit and grace, baby. You guys gave us grit and grace, and I thank you all, because that's actually a part of who we are. We've had to get through the hard times, and we learned the grit, and so we give each other grace. And with that being said, I just really thank the presenters, and they are dear friends, and we do need to support each other in these times.
And thank you, KK, my dear friend, and all of you.
Yes, thank you as well, KK.